Peace be with everyone. And today I just wanted to make a quick video talking about Coach Bill Belichick and why he has to coach North Carolina now. And I'm just going to be talking about the importance and the reason that they use Bill Belichick the way they do, and why he has to coach North Carolina, right? And I'm sure you guys can those of you guys who have been watching my videos and know about the truth of the name, the holy names of God, that you guys already see where I'm going with this, with Coach Bill Belichick coaching North Carolina. So now let's get into this. So as I read oftentimes the book of Isaiah, chapter 52, verses 5 and 6, I'm just going to read it here. Now therefore, what have I here, saith the Lord, that my people is taken away for naught? They that rule over them make them to howl, saith the Lord, and my name continually, every day, is blasphemed. Therefore my people shall know my name. Therefore they shall know in that day that I am he that doeth speak. Behold, it is I. So there we go. The Lord told us in these last days, in that day, that his name is going to be blasphemed a lot. So there we go. The Lord told us in that day, which is these end times, that the names of God are going to be blasphemed every day. Every single day it's going to be blasphemed. Therefore, his people will know his name. So let's get into this here. So when you deal with Bill Belichick, you got to understand that the name Bill is just short for William, right? He's just William Belichick. And as we know about the name William, that's very important because as it's written in Exodus 3:14, and God said unto Moses, I am that I am. And he said, thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, I am hath sent me unto you. So the Lord told Moses he is the I am that I am. He is the I am, right? And we know the will of God, is Christ. Christ does the will of his Father, and he is the will of God. He is what God had planned from the beginning, his Son, the will of God, Christ, the Son of God, the William, the will of I am. You see what I'm saying? The William. So that's why there's so many Williams that use that name, and they're like big in this world, because that's what it's all about. The name being blasphemed every single day. They use the Lord's name, and they use it, because there's power in the names of God and in the names of the Messiah. So in this world, them devils know about that. Because as it's written, even the devils know who God is and they tremble. So they use the name of God for their earthly riches and for their popularity, because they have to blaspheme the name. So just some examples here. That's why you have like Bill Gates. Everybody knows Bill Gates. He's William. He's William Gates from Seattle. Seattle's called the Emerald City, as it's written in Revelation that the kingdom of God had a rainbow round about it, and it looked unto like an emerald. Hint, the Emerald City. That's why William Gates had to be from there. The gates, dealing with like the gates of heaven. William. And then Henry just means ruler of the home. So he's the ruler, William, and the gates. Dealing with the Emerald City, right? Dealing with the technology. Let's keep it moving here. That's why you got Bill Nye. Bill Nye. A lot of us growing up when we were in school, they used to show us this guy on they used to show us his videos. Bill Nye the Science Guy, William. Sitting there, all the children sitting there cheering, Bill, Bill, Bill. You see what I'm saying? It's just wickedness. That's why you got that singer, Will I Am. Look at that. They know what they're doing. Look how he puts them periods in the name, separating it. Will I Am. Will of God. Will of I Am. Remember? And then he has the Black Eyed Peas, because they like to keep true Hebrews, true Judahites in that false black identity. They don't want people claiming their true heritage, as Judahites, as Judah, as Hebrews, as Israel. Let's keep it going here. That's why the best women's tennis player, Serena Williams, one of the best female athletes ever, William. Right? Let's keep it moving here. That's why you had Bill Russell. Bill Russell won the most NBA championships. Bill, William. And then you got Bill Belichick, won the most Super Bowls. William. It's always William. Right? Now I'm going to get into, when we're talking about these sports, we got to understand that these sports are like, they're not any different from music and movies and stuff like that, because It's a Gentile custom, the way they've set it all up. So I'm going to read First Maccabees chapter 1, verses 11 through 15. So let's get into this. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, Let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. So this device pleased them well. Then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen. Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem, according to the customs of the heathen. So you see that? They built a place of exercise. They built a gymnasium, according to the customs of the heathen, of the Greeks, and made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief. So you see all that right there, specifically verses 14 and 15. The people of God sold out. They sold out to join the Greeks, to join their gymnasium, to join their exercise stuff. See that? They made themselves uncircumcised, and they forsook the holy covenant. And that uncircumcised isn't just physical. That's a spiritual uncircumcised as well. You see that? So they started making these gymnasiums and making these exercise places and raising all the young men up, all the people up, teaching them the ways that are not of God. So this is very important to understand. So raise people up to believe that sports are like innocent. And sports, playing them, especially just in the leisure way of like, especially when it's like you're younger, it's not really, there's nothing really bad about that, but it's these mainstream sports, like these popular $1 million things that are going on, nationally televised. They're making war with God, and it's serious how these sports do it. And we also got to understand that it's beyond human as well when certain things happen and the way they set certain things up. So Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. So we're not wrestling with just flesh and blood. There's spiritual realms that are making things happen, right? So now let's really get into this. So we're going to be talking about why Bill Belichick has to coach Carolina. Carol, right? And this is so important to understand because as we've been talking about for quite a while now, the ancient name of Christ is the Karast. The word Christ comes from the ancient word Karast, which was the anointed mummy. Dealing with the Kara, the car, the Carol, the Charlie, the car. You see where I'm going? That's why they had to name a car, because it's all about having people blaspheme the name of God without even knowing it. See that? They that rule over them make them to howl, which means to blaspheme. So his name is blasphemed and people aren't even aware of it. They want people calling it a car. They want people saying a curse word and then saying car. You see what I'm saying? It's serious how they've set it up. And that's why it's written that God's people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. That's why it's so important to be able to learn this stuff. So yes, the embalmment of the body is termed karas, and the embalmed mummy reborn by the preservative process and placed in the tomb to wait the rebirth in spirit life is named the karas. Indeed, his last name Christ comes from the Coptic late Egyptian term karas, which meant anointed one. So you see this, that the word karas came before Christ. He's still Christ. It's still okay to say that, but we got to understand the ancient name so we know when they're blaspheming what they're doing. So it was the anointed one. That's how you get Israel, because he is Karael. Because Ka means soul, Ra means light, and then El means God, dealing with Elohim. All throughout the Old Testament. That's how you get Israel, Karael. Yes, and then they had to base the vehicles around Christ. They didn't need to name it a car, but they did it on purpose, so people are blaspheming for years without knowing it. And then, you know what I mean? And I already talked about this in other videos, so I'm not going to get too deep into it. But when you understand Christ means the anointed one. Christ is the anointed one, which dealt like putting the holy oil on. You see what I'm saying? Consecrated for a specific role, symbolized by the application of oil, like the holy oil. So that's why then they had to name it oil that they put in a vehicle, which they call a car. They didn't need to call that oil and they didn't need to call it a car, but they did it all out of blasphemy. So let's keep it going here. So that's why, because dealing with the name Carol, and we've already talked about the name Carol, how important that is, dealing with the Messiah. Carol and William, Carol William. That's why Bill has to coach Carolina. Now I'm going to get deeper into this here, but yes, this is why he has to coach them. This stuff is all set up intentionally. And then, dealing with his name real quick, he's William Stephen Belichick. The name Stephen just means the crown. Christ is the King of Kings. God is the King. Christ is the King. So, he's William, the will of God with the crown, right? Coaching Carol. You see what I'm saying here? It's so serious how they set all this up. And, dealing with North Carolina, they play in Chapel Hill, and I'm going to be getting into that here. But, their rivals, they got Duke, which is just the Blue Devils. Then they got Wake Forest, which is the Demon Deacons. And then they got South Carolina, again, Carol. You see what I'm saying here? And then South Carolina, they play in the stadium called the William Stadium, right? So, they've been doing this stuff for a long, long time. They know what they're doing here. Now, what I really wanted to show was they had Michael Jordan at his debut game. So he played his first. Look at this guy right here. Look at this. Straight possessed. Sitting there next to the Legion, the police officers. Anyway, they had to have MJ at the game, and what's so serious is we've talked about MJ before. That's why Michael Jordan had to go to North Carolina, because he's the so-called best basketball player ever. They say it's either him or LeBron, and LeBron is just King James dealing with the Holy Word of God, the King James Bible. So the best basketball player, Michael, had to go to Carroll, where in 23, because it's already written, where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, I am with them. So, this stuff is all blasphemy, how they set this all up, man. That's why, let me show it here. As we know about Jordan, that's where Christ was baptized, in the Jordan River, right? And then we got the name Michael means the one who is like God. So there's no way that the one who is like God in the Jordan played at Carol, after we've already been talking about the ancient name of Christ, Karas, Karael, Carol. There's no way around this. So that's why, let me keep it going here. You see at the game, Michael Jordan, Mia Hamm, and more stars reportedly to attend his debut. Look at that, Mia Hamm, right? Now look. Yeah, so Mia Hamm was at the game, right? And it's so, wild how they work. It's amazing the Lord gave us the eyes to see now. We know about Ham that deals with the Christ as well, the Hamashiach. You see what I'm saying? The Hamashiach. Christ, meaning Yeshua the Messiah, Yeshua the Anointed One. You see this? Why they had to say Michael, the one who was like God, and they had to have Ham at Williams' game, coaching Carroll. There's no way around this stuff ever at all. That's why Bill Belichick has that girlfriend. Her name's Jordan, right? He has that young girlfriend, this girl right here, and her name's Jordan. And he's 73 and she's 24. That ain't even normal. That ain't even normal. He's 73 years old, she's 24. But her name's Jordan as well. So you got William with the Jordan again. Right? Dealing with that Jordan, dealing with that Jordan River. So then that's why they've been calling him Chapel Bill now. Chapel Bill. And the reason they call him this, you see, this is ESPN that posted this. Chapel Bill. And the reason they're calling him Chapel Bill is because North Carolina, the school, and their football team, they play in Chapel Hill. Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And what's so serious about that is, a chapel is just like a church, right? Like a small building for Christian worship. A chapel. So they got to call him Chapel Bill. They know what they're doing with this. Chapel Bill, because they know the will of God, the will of I am, the William at the chapel. Dealing with Carol. Carol's Chapel, and they're calling it Bill's now. Williams. There's no way around this stuff. So, anyway, dealing with the chapel, that's why, who founded Chapel Hill? In 1789, William Davy wrote the act that established the university. William. It's always William, it's always Carroll. They always do this. Look at the general manager for the North Carolina football team, Michael Lombardi, and then Bubba Cunningham, Ham and Michael. Again, this is all they do. They blaspheme the name all day long. And that's why, people are starting to wake up now, realize the truth of all of this, how it all comes together here. That's why in sports, oftentimes they play with a Wilson ball. Wilson means the son of William, the son of the will of God, Christ, right? A Wilson ball. You see what I'm saying? And then the football's deep too, because when you go into, um, and then the football's deep too, because when you go into Isaiah 22:18, it says, "He will surely violently turn and toss thee like a ball into a large country. There shalt thou die, and there the chariots of thy glory shall be the shame of thy Lord's house. So he will surely violently turn and toss thee like a ball." So that's why you got William coaching Carolina, Carroll, and he has to be the best one of the best coaches ever, winning the most championships. And then they got to have William win the most NBA championships. You see what I'm saying? All these Williams all the time, and this is just like a small portion of it. That's why you had to have Willy Wonka, Willy Wonka having his little kingdom and having all the children come to his kingdom, dealing with like the milk and honey, all blasphemy. And he had to have Charlie there, because Charlie's just car. Remember what I was showing? Car. It's the same thing repeatedly. But yeah, that's why Bill Belichick had to have Brady. And what's serious about Brady is Brady's real name is Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. You see that right there, Edward. And what we already know about how the important the name Edward is, and how that is always connected to God and the Messiah. So Joshua 22:34, "And the children of Reuben and the children of Gad called the altar Ed, for it shall be a witness between us that the Lord is God." The altar Ed, Edward, Eddie. That's why in videos we've been showing how the name Edward is always there, right? Why Carl Anthony Towns had to play with Anthony Edwards, and then they had to split them up, right? And then we've already been showing all the movies that they've been doing that in, because they already know. That's why he had to be with Edward and William, the best coach and quarterback duo ever. All them Super Bowls that they won, right? And then Brady went on to win 7 Super Bowls, and Belichick went on to win 6 of them. The 7 and the 6. And then Belichick had 333 wins, dealing with the threes, like the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. So then something else I wanted to show. That's why you had, who was Michael? Michael, remember, Michael's the one who was like God, and then Jordan is where Christ was baptized, Jordan River, and then he wore 23, because Christ said, "Where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, I am with them." So that's why his coach had to be Dean Smith at Carroll. And check it out. Dean Smith's full name, Edwards. Dean Edwards. So again, you got Edwards being with Michael, the one who was like God, at the school called Carroll, in a place called Chapel. There's no getting around it ever. And you remember about this guy, Dean Smith, he coached at Kansas too. So it's like they do it for so long, how they've been blaspheming. And it's a blessing that the Lord is pouring his spirit on us now to be able to see this stuff. Because now it's all playing out. And also with Belichick, you see how he's wearing this hoodie here. He used to wear these hoodies a lot, and there used to be a lot of like memes and stuff too. But it's so serious because you see right here, this is ESPN, a visual history of Bill Belichick's outfits. And then you see they got the gray hoodie. So like they always got the hoodies and stuff on there. Bill Belichick, because what does that deal with? That literally deals with 1 Thessalonians 5:2. "For yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night." So that thief in the night wearing that hoodie, not everybody can see him. And he's William. because he's blaspheming a name of God, the will of God, Christ, the I am, the will of I am, William, Bill, right? That's why I remember in my other video I was showing, that's why they had to put Carmelo on the cover. Because Carmelo, that's Car, on the cover of the new NBA 2K. That's why Carmelo Anthony used to wear that hoodie. And they used to call him Hoodie Mello. Because he's Car, and he's in that hoodie. Blaspheming the thief in the night, Car Rost. And then you got Bill Belichick in the hoodie. Blaspheming the thief in the night, William. It's like all the time how they do this. That's why on the new game, the new video game, they made a card called the GOAT card. And they put Carmelo as the GOAT card. Hoodie Mello. Car. The thief in the night. And then in the debut for Bill Belichick, this was the other day. Let me find it here. So this right here, they played TCU. Right here, they played TCU, and they got beat pretty bad. It was one of the bigger losses in Belichick's career. But TCU is just Texas Christian. That's the name of that school. Texas Christian. So again, Christian. And then with Texas, we know how important Texas is when it deals with the Messiah. The Messiah rises out of Texas. He rises out of Texas and he rises out of Kansas. And Texas is the Lone Star State. And as it's written, Christ is the bright and morning star. So how that all had to come together. They had to make sure that William got beat by TCU, Texas Christian. And then he finally got his first win yesterday. See, Bill Belichick wins first college game as the coach of KARA. And they beat Charlotte. Charlotte's just Car. You see what I'm saying? It's the same thing repeatedly. Car and William. They're just blaspheming the name. And then that's why on the cover, I had broken this down, but that's why you had to have William right here. Then you had to have a Wilson ball right here. And then you had to have Carroll written right here. Carroll. And as I showed before, you try to read a lot of stuff here. There's not much to read. Like there's a few words up here and stuff, but you can fully read Carolina, Carroll. Because they wanted that to be shown. Because they already know who Carroll is. Kara-El, Christ, Karast, William, the will of God, the will of I am. Right? It all ties together here. That's why North Carolina, one of their biggest coaches ever was Roy Williams. One of their biggest coaches ever was Roy Williams. And he coached at Kansas too for like 15 years. Roy Williams. Coaching at Carolina, Carroll, and William. You see what I'm saying? It's like, it's all the time how they do all that. So they're just blaspheming. Anyway, I just wanted to make a quick video breaking some stuff down here. This video, I didn't want it to drag on too long. So I just kind of tried to speed through that a little bit. It might have seemed fast, but I'm going to have more videos coming. And a lot of this stuff I've already explained a lot. So I just wanted to kind of run through it here because this was a big headline in the past week or so, Bill Belichick's debut and how MJ was at the game, So I just wanted to get this talked about real quick because it's so important to understand how that name is blasphemed every single day. And this is just another example out of the many examples. You got William, So it all ties together here. But yeah, that's all I wanted to show. I wish peace, love, prosperity to everyone. I'm going to have more videos coming. God bless.